All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to rank the teams in the NFC West post free agency. Now, this was a division last year that was very competitive. You definitely you saw each team, I think, be in first place at least once during the year, and I think this is going to be a very competitive division once again in 2025. Now, I number one for me, I think is easy. Ranking 2 through 4 is tough. Um, because I think the 49ers are not this juggernaut that they once were. I do think the Cardinals and the Seahawks are more competitive teams than, well, especially the Cardinals. The Cardinals have been more competitive, because the last couple of years they've had some down years. But, yeah, I'm still going to rank the Cardinals last. Sorry, I was charging my laptop. But, and once again, my camera turns off. Great. Cardinals, I think I still got to put them last. I do like the Josh Smith, or the Josh Sweat signing. I did like that because that's something that they needed to address last year because their pass rush was not great last year. They did extend Trey McBride. This is a big year for Kyler Murray. And we want to see, Marvin Harrison Jr. take that next step in year 2. So, there's a lot riding on the Cardinals. We did talk about them last week and how, there's pressure on the current regime to kind of go out there and, be better. And this team be better. Because they did get off to a good start, and they won some close games. They were competitive against some good teams. I mean, the Bills, they were up against them in week 1, and then the Bills came back. So, this is a big year. And, we'll see if they can get back to the promised land, if Kyler Murray could play better down the stretch. Because that always just seems to be the common thing with the Cardinals. Even going back to when Cliff Kingsbury was the coach. They would get off to these fast starts, and then they would tail off towards the end of the year. So, there's that. But I think the defense is more of the concern. I think the offense is good. You have James Conner back there running the football. Trey McBride, they extended him. He's a very good tight end. And Kyler Murray, I don't think is, a bad quarterback. I think he is, decent. But, I think you still need to add another wide receiver there, which I think they could potentially do in the draft. We'll see. But the defense, I think, that's the side of the ball that needs a lot of work. Actually, Calais Campbell they brought back recently. So, but I mean, he's an older player. He's not going to have the same impact he once did. But he does provide veteran leadership on that side of the ball, and I think they need that. You still have Budda Baker back there in the secondary, so but they gotta add more to it. But yeah, I gotta put them last. I put the Seahawks ahead of them. The Cardinals have had problems with the Seahawks. I know different team now with Sam Darnold. Yeah, they've had a weird offseason, the Seahawks. They traded DK Metcalf, they cut Tyler Lockett, but then you go out and you sign Cooper Kupp. You also signed DeMarcus Lawrence. You signed Sam Darnold. I think this team could still be decent, and I will still defend the fact that I think the Seahawks did upgrade at quarterback. I think Sam Darnold is an upgrade over Geno Smith. Not significantly, but I think he's, still an upgrade. Yeah, Mike McDonald did a good job his first year. And I think let's see what they do in this draft. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think the Seahawks are going to be a bad team next year. I think they will be competitive. But how is Sam Darnold going to be going from the situation that he had in Minnesota to now? How is that going to play out? That remains to be seen. Because we've seen Sam Darnold in other places. We saw him in Carolina. Didn't really work out. We didn't really get to see him a lot in San Francisco. But I think had Brock Purdy got hurt for a significant amount of time, I think Sam Darnold would have stepped in and played well enough that they would have been fine. But, yeah, so this is going to be big for him, and they got a good running game. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba there. They brought in Cooper Kupp. The problem is the offensive line, right? The offensive line is not good, and they're going to have to fix that. But I'm going to put them at 3. I'm going to put the 49ers at 2. I'm all for the 49ers bounce back. Again, it's not a guarantee, but they dealt with a lot of injuries. I know they made a lot of changes in the offseason. No more Greenlaw, Ufanga. They traded Deebo Samuel. But you still got a lot of those pieces there. You still got Nick Bosa. You still got Fred Warner. You got Brock Purdy, George Kittle. Hopefully Brandon Ayuk bounces back. Christian McCaffrey. Trent Williams. They still got good players on this roster. They're just going to have to, revamp. And this draft is a good opportunity for that. So, the 49ers are not, they're not out of this. They're going to be, I think they're going to bounce back and be a good team again. But we'll see what happens. But it was a rough year for them. I mean, they finished in last place. I did not expect that going into the year. I thought they were going to be, I had them as the 1 seed. But they dealt with a lot of injuries. And this is what happened to them a couple years ago. Similar circumstances. So they're going to have to bounce back. They're going to have to pay Brock Purdy at some point. But they haven't really made any, significant moves with the, with the roster. Other than, subtractions. I mean, we take a look at the additions that they've made. So, for them, they signed Luke Farrell, another tight end. Patrick Taylor they brought back, signed a safety, Richie Grant. Luke Gifford, a linebacker. Kevin Givens, D tackle. Jason Pinnock, safety from the Giants. Demarcus Robinson they brought in, so he's basically, he's insurance policy if Ayuk doesn't come back healthy. And Demarcus Robinson, was playing well with the Rams, so, it wasn't a bad pickup. Actually, they did bring over Mac Jones, 2-year deal. So he could be the latest quarterback to, improve his stock and be a starter again, in the 49ers system. But yeah, nothing really significant with the 49ers. Now, at number 1, I got the Rams. Number 1, I have the Rams. I love what they did, simply, getting Davante Adams. I think Davante Adams is an upgrade over Cooper Kupp at this point in their careers. I think Davante Adams still has a lot left in the tank. And this is a good team that he's going to. And he's going to be opposite of Puka Nacua, who's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Matthew Stafford, the Rams were able to figure things out with him. And that defense improved as the year went along. That defensive line really got after the quarterback. I mean, they terrorized Sam Darnold in that playoff game. And, they made things hard on Jalen Hurts. And, the Rams, they could have won that game. They came very close. So we'll see what they do in the draft. Drafting Jared Verse last year, he played well. They got him and Fisk on the defensive line. I mean, they're going to be a good team. And, that defense, again, another year to grow and develop. And, with this rookie class coming in, however they address things. Yeah, no, it's the Rams are going to be a Super Bowl contender in my eyes. If Stafford could play up to how he did once Kupp and Puka came back last year. And now you had Davante Adams. Also, Tyler Higbee coming back late in the season, having him the whole year. That's going to really pay dividends for this team. You got Kyron Williams who can run the football effectively for them. I think for them, prioritize offensive line. Add more to the offensive line if they can, because the offensive line dealt with a lot of injuries last year. You want to have better depth there. Defense, secondary, linebacker. I feel like positions like that they'll look at. But yeah, look, I think they're a Super Bowl team. I really do believe that. But yeah, so to run through it, Cardinals, I got in 4th. Seahawks 3. 49ers 2. Rams 1. that's how I see everything right now. But let me know what you guys think, though, about those rankings. How would you rank the teams in the NFC West post NFL draft? And that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I apologize for a lot of the technical issues that we were experiencing, but hey, we were able to make it through. That's what happens. That's what makes my show, is when you have issues with the camera. It's all good. But we will be back again tomorrow. We'll preview the playing games for tomorrow night. We will move over to the AFC side of things and do rankings post free agency. We'll start off with the AFC East, and then in between all that, we'll try to figure out some of the other things to talk about tomorrow. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well on the network. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our videos as well. We greatly appreciate it. We appreciate you guys' support as we put out content for you guys. Also, wherever you get your podcasts, check us out on those platforms as well, so you can listen to us on the go. So you don't have to actually see the technical issues with my camera happening. You could just hear me complaining about it on the broadcast. So, yeah, that's basically it. So, as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, everybody, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.